So, can I hit you guys with an analogy?
That's a weird request.
Sure, I guess.
The foretop is in its teenage years. You guys know why?
No.
Because we're growing. We've hit a growth spurt. Downloads are up, Instagram followers are up, we're doing new and fun things, our bones are getting longer.
Oh, yeah, I get it. I'm totally a teenager. I mean, the podcast is.
Right. Okay. So, Nick, we got the analogy. Now, where are we going with this?
Well, what happens to teenagers when they grow?
Well, I can answer that because I have two of them, and I can tell you definitively they consume a lot of food, like truckloads of food.
Exactly, you nailed it. They need more food to fuel their growth spurt.
Okay, I think I know where you're getting at. The foretop is growing and we need fuel to sustain our growth.
Exactly, nailed it.
Okay, I think I get it, Nick. So the foretop needs fuel because it's growing, as Ruby said. And for us, what we feed on is cash. Cold, hard sponsorship cash.
Oh my God, you're making us sound like criminals, Catherine. So let's be clear. We need sponsors because we've got bills to pay, and sponsors need us because we are young, we are growing, we are incredibly charming. We are me, Ruby, every wine brand's target demographic.
Yeah. Anyway, the foretop is a teen, and it needs a little cheddar, cheese, moolah, dinero, whatever to operate, and we are looking for advertisers. And that advertiser could be you.
That's right. So join the fast growing foretop for its teen years. Email our sales manager, zoe@theforetop.org for more info, or you can also check our website and our social channels links. I don't even know what that means, but check that out.
Join the revolution.
Whoa. Yeah, okay, we got the slogan. Love the energy.
Okay, guys, I read a story in the Wall Street Journal last week that really has me thinking, and I'm trying to figure out how it could pertain to the wine world.
What was it about?
Okay, it's this trend called chaos packaging. Have you heard of this?
Oh, yeah, that's like when you take a product and you package it kind of like another product. So I've seen this sunscreen mousse that is packaged like whipped cream, and I've seen it on TikTok. Well, I've seen it on Instagram, but it comes from TikTok, and I'm assuming you've seen this, Ruby, right?
Yeah, I feel like I've seen a lot of this. It's, very sensationalized, especially on a place like TikTok. I've also seen like whipped cream, but it's alcoholic.
Oh.
Do you know what I'm
Wait,
talking
what
about?
is
I
that?
feel like that was like
No.
Cardi B's thing at some point.
Oh, wow. Yum.
Oh, also, Catherine, have you seen the tampon brand Flow? It's packaged like pints of ice cream.
Yes, I have seen Flow and I've actually bought Flow and I appreciate Flow for making lady products look fun. But Nick, we got to bring you back into the conversation. We had Cardi B, we had lady products. Let's bring you back in. How do we disrupt the wine industry with this chaos packaging idea?
I think I have an idea. I'm thinking wine in a banana peel. Kind of like Velvet Underground, Andy Warhol-y.
I am seeing some logistical challenges with this. Like, do you peel the banana and then what happens?
Mm,
Uh,
okay. So what about like wine in a Capri Sun juice pouch?
Ooh, that's a great solution for wines priced at like $5 a bottle or less.
Mm.
okay, how about this? Picture this. You've got that olive oil in the squeeze bottle that's really big. How about
Mm.
wine in a ketchup bottle?
Mm.
Or like a maple syrup jug, like the ones they have at diners with like a little pullback metal tab, and you know what I mean?
Hmm. That would bring a different dimension to food pairing.
Yeah, guys, I'm gonna give this one a hard no.
Okay, well, maybe we're not thinking outside of the box enough. What about like wine in an Hermes Birkin bag? Because like
Hmm.
wine's a luxury product. And I just randomly came across Bloomingdale's now has pre owned Birkin bags on their website. So you can buy like a used Birkin bag for a mere between $8,000 and $34,000, depending on the bag. So affordable. Like, how's that for chaos packaging for like luxury wine brands?
I have an idea. Instead of pouring your wine out of a gently used Birkin bag, my friends and I used to take a drawstring bag and cut a hole in the bottom and put a bag of wine into it and have the spout come out, and then go play squash in college and have a bag of wine in the bag in the
Wait,
squash court.
That is
that
absolutely chaos packaging.
is brilliant. Oh my gosh. You could do that with a backpack. You could oh my goodness. I'm loving this.
Oh my god, you know those picnic basket backpacks? You could put one of those like a like a camelback? You can fill
Mhm.
that with wine.
Oh, that has been done. That has been
Yeah, that's
done.
definitely been done.
Oh, okay.
We have wine country horror stories for you this Halloween week. We also have a famous comedian's contribution to wine home decor and all the latest on AI in the wine industry. Plus, we phone a friend, that friend being Jason Wise of SommTV, who is going to tell us all about the Ghosts of Napa Valley. I'm Katherine Cole, joined by Nick Toole and Ruby Welkovich, and this is your fave wine news podcast, The Four Top.
All right, guys, it's Halloween week, so we are going to start this episode with horror and then end with horror.
That's right. And I would like to thank VinePair for meeting all of my horror needs this week with an article entitled The Most Haunted Wineries in the World.
Well, Ruby, as you know, I'm a total skeptic, but I will admit this was a fun story to read. VinePair's Hannah Staub starts us off in chateaux in France's Loire Valley and Bordeaux, where scorned women of previous centuries still roam the halls in really creepy ways.
Yes, and closer to home at the historic Beringer Vineyards in the Napa Valley, objects mysteriously fly through the air and a mysterious male figure has been seen lurking around.
But we've saved the best for last. There is actually a winery in Mendocino called Murder Ridge, and there was an actual axe murder there back in 1911.
Ooh, wow, that is some outstanding Halloween lore right there.
Yeah, definitely, folks, check out this article in VinePair. It's very fun. And also keep listening because later in this episode, we will catch up with filmmaker Jason Wise, who visited some of Napa Valley's most haunted wineries and made a film about
Yeah.
them.
That was my best demented haunted house laugh. Was that good? You guys like that?
That was something. Ooh, guys, there is a new wine product out on the market with a gorgeous design, so you know I have to talk about it, and it's only $1,500, so cheaper than a bottle of Harlan.
Yes, thank you, Eater, for alerting us to the fab new luxury wine fridge collab between comedian Eric Wareheim and Lux fridge maker Rocco. Now, listeners, Wareheim is in the comedy duo called Tim and Eric, and people might recognize him from the series Master of None. But in my world, most importantly, he was responsible for introducing the world to Dr. Steve Brule and Sweetberry wine.
Okay, wait. You have to tell us what sweet berry wine is.
Well, Dr. Steve Brule is a character on the Tim and Eric show. He's a doctor, and he has a wine called Sweetberry wine, and they make that wine now. I don't know if it's Eric Wareheim's brand that makes Sweetberry wine, but it started as a joke on Tim and Eric, and now it's a real wine you can buy.
Oh, interesting. Okay, well, we
Yeah.
might need to play a little clip from that because I don't think I've seen this before.
Sweet berry wine! I'm supposed to spit it out. But no way, Jose. Am I spitting this stuff out? It tastes like fruit.
You know, I know Wareheim as the owner of the label Las Jarras, along with winemaker Joel Burt, aka Mr. Brute. Joel's pretty cool. And Wareheim is also famously quite the chef. His cookbook is entitled Foodheim.
So, what do you guys think of this wine fridge?
Okay, so it's an attractive standalone fridge. It's got four legs. That's a really good start for structural integrity, and it's got a bar tray on top. So it's like a wine fridge that could be part of your living room decor. And looks like you got cream, white, graphite, or yellow colors. So very demure.
Remind me not to ask Nick design questions again. Yeah, so it has a very 1960s vibe with reeded glass, very fun colors. There's an iPhone app that allows you to view the inventory and what's inside your Rocco fridge, which offers insight into how hotels know how to charge you for the minibar. They must have this app.
Yeah, that's kinda cool how you can see, like, what is in your fridge. I love this, and Nick, I think you undersold the 4 legs, like, it's the fridge is on these very kind of delicate what would you call those,
Some might call
Ruby?
them like I don't know if they're hairpin legs, but they're like it's very mid-century modern.
Yeah. Yeah. It's cool, right? It's cool. I love that this fridge can just kind of stand alone as like a furniture piece in your house. And I just went to the Instagram feed for Rocco, and it looks like it's not just a wine fridge specifically, but just a beverage fridge. They're kind of selling it to people who consume all beverages, alcoholic and non-alcoholic. So I'm looking at the website and it looks like this collab with Las Jarras is really it's just the same fridge design, but when you order a fridge, you get 6 bottles of Las Jarras wines plus you're automatically signed up for their wine club, which is actually really kind of a smart business partnership between these 2 brands.
I think my wife would be into this, so just take my credit card, Eric Wareheim. You are too cool, and your fridge is too cool. That's a pun because it's a fridge.
Okay, I like it. I am actually actively looking around my house right now for an outlet and a few square feet of wall space so I can justify buying this thing because I am lusting after it. It's pretty great.
Did you guys know that winemakers can age wine in bottles, stainless steel barrels, or wooden ovals?
Wooden ovals?
Yeah, wooden ovals.
Wait, do you mean like barriques or barrels or puncheons, casks, foudres, botti? I mean, these are all terms for vessels that you age wine in. They're all kind of ovular in shape. You ferment wine in some of them, but I've never heard them called ovals before.
I'm sure Google's generative AI assisted search result meant to say barrels or one of those other words, but it said ovals. To be honest, our next story is about AI in the wine world, and I was trying to have this like gotcha moment and get AI to say something stupid about wine, but this is how far I got. So it looks like Google's Gemini AI responses when you search stuff aren't actually that bad when it comes to wine.
Except no one knows what you're talking about when you say ovals. Okay. Well, so journalist Lauren Eads penned an interesting article for the drinks business recently that looked at the ways artificial intelligence is impacting the wine industry. So, yeah, Nick, let's dig into her findings.
All right, so up first, we've got viticulture and winemaking. So data is power, and AI powered monitoring can provide a lot of data. And so some vineyards are monitoring things such as water usage using AI to better understand their water needs and vine health.
Yes, there are also ways to use AI and aerial images to monitor variations in ripening and stress throughout your vineyard. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, so well-funded vineyards, I feel like, have had this ability for many years. I know I've seen some pretty impressive technology used to monitor soil moisture and vine health so that irrigation and other inputs are used at an absolute minimum and, of course, at the ideal time. So, if AI can make this type of precision viticulture even more precise, I guess this is a win for sustainability. But I feel like I've seen this before.
You have. You're not wrong. What gets labeled as AI is often in reality fairly simple compared to things like ChatGPT or the image generator Midjourney. When you're seeing those like soil moisture and vine health monitoring things, it is likely just a form of what's called discriminative AI, which has actually been around for decades. So when you call it AI, it's just mostly marketing because people expect AI to be in things. And it's technically AI, but it has little to do with the crazy explosion of generative AI that we've seen in the past 2 to 3 years. So, anyway, that's my soapbox as someone who sort of works in tech, sort of.
Actually, that is very helpful. Thank you, Nick. I was kind of wondering why that part of the article didn't feel like new news to me. So let's look at the winery side of things. There's an AI powered robot named Tastery that can identify changes in chemistry to indicate smoke taint in a wine. And it can even help determine optimal blends and fining agents to use to reduce the impact of smoke taint on the final product.
Interesting. Now to the wine education side of things, where large language models similar to ChatGPT and Claude can help streamline and personalize wine education. So, from performing repetitive tasks like producing flashcards to sort of dumbing down complex information, large language models can lessen the burden of studying for something like the WSET exams.
Okay, so just don't try to claim that wine is aged in wooden ovals on your WSET exam, folks. Learn your tonnelier terms.
Starting with the term tendelier.
Okay, back to business. Remember last week when we discussed the fraudulent wine that scammers were selling all over the world? Well, AI could help prevent wine forgery.
Okay, this is cool. So, researchers in Bordeaux have developed an AI tool that can separate and detect the specific chemical components of a wine. I think we may have mentioned this on the foretop in a previous episode. So, this could be used to determine if a sample of wine is actually what it claims to be.
And then there's another AI tool made by some folks in New Zealand that logs the chemical footprint of a certain terroir based on the soil chemistry. And then that can be used to match up to a wine's chemical makeup to verify if it came from a certain place or if it's all BS.
This is so interesting. So, this could be a tool to not only authenticate wines, but also to verify that the wines are still drinkable, I would think. And I actually was just telling a friend about this, and he said, "Well, this could totally" now this is not the way I speak, "liquefy the secondary market for wines." But that does make sense. So individuals could, like, authenticate their own cellars and move wines through resale websites themselves. So right now, there are a lot of people sitting on old wines that they can't sell because it's just too complex to get their wines verified. So very cool.
And then there's marketing and branding. Machine learning is already being used to predict consumer trends, and one winery took this to its logical conclusion by having ChatGPT make and market a wine. Everything from the wine to the bottles to the label were decided by ChatGPT, and I have to say, as a graphic designer myself, I do genuinely worry about the impact this could have on designers and the artistic community.
And then there's the sommelier community. As everyone knows, it can be difficult to pick out a wine, especially if you're not a pro, and even if you are a pro. And some people are on a quest to make this easier with AI. There's an app called Preferably with an I instead of a Y at the end there that uses AI to customize wine recommendations based off of other wines you like. And this was apparently developed in part by, quote, the largest group of masters of wine and master sommeliers in the world. So we'll have to ask Martin Reyes, Master of Wine, if they consulted with him about this or did preferably just steal everyone's ideas. I don't know.
I wonder myself. Moet Hennessy actually has its own AI SOM that can talk you through wine recommendations. And get this, it isn't like a chatbot, it's a quote, living painting that interacts via actual speech. Whoa.
Okay, that is cool. Well, I have visited Champagne and indulged in some crazy stuff there, including a completely insane hologram wine tasting experience. So I am here to tell you that the Champenoise are always on the cutting edge when it comes to these types of interactive experiences. But I don't know how applicable a living painting is to everyday wine selections. So it'll be interesting to see how far all of this goes, for better or for worse. So, do you guys remember back in 2013 when the hottest thing in wine was that documentary Somm?
I was 18, so no, not really.
I was also 18, so barely, but I do remember my parents watching it, and then I watched it a few years later.
I was totally 18 too. Anyway, friend of the pod, Jason Wise, was the mastermind behind that Somm documentary, which was pretty great. It did a lot for the wine industry. And since then, he has made many more wine films and launched SommTV, a streaming service for wine related content. And more recently, he has added to his oeuvre.
That's right. In his most recent film, we've got grapes, great wine, and ghouls.
Ghouls! All right, stop. I'm easily scared. It fills me with terror to say, but Ruby is right. Ghosts of Napa Valley is Jason's newest film, and it documents one Psalm's quest to commune with ghosts amongst the so called ghost wineries of Napa.
Yes. So to tell us about all these incorporeal capers, we are going to phone a friend. Welcome, Jason Wise. Good to have you back on the foretop. It was super fun to have you on episode 119, and here we are again. So could you please just quickly introduce yourself and, let us know your business title and what you do?
Oh boy, business. That insinuates I make money.
Tell
I'm a
me about it.
filmmaker who came into wine. I made the Somm series. Yeah, started Somm TV, have the whole streaming service and host a podcast and all of that. And yeah, I can't seem to escape the wine world, just like you guys.
Absolutely. And your newest release is very well timed in October. Tell us the title of it and a little bit about it.
Sure. It's called Ghosts of Napa Valley. And we have three women, one a winemaker, one a wine writer, and one a really respected sommelier, especially here in Southern California, who take an antique Ouija board from the 1800s, late 1800s, early 1900s, into some abandoned and beautiful properties in Napa that have a lot of trauma, are rumored to be very haunted, and we see what happens. I mean, I've been obsessed with the topic of these quote unquote ghost wineries for a very long time.
So, how did these stories come to you, or did you go and seek these out?
It's kind of a combination. I mean, going back a decade when I was making the first Som film, you'd get a lot of weird access. You'd be in places and then someone would bring out a bottle and you're supposed to be gone by 4 and it's 9:45 p.m. and you're still drinking with the people. And they'd go, we have this building back in the woods at our property. I'd go, really? And they'd go, yeah, it's abandoned, but it used to be a winery pre-prohibition. You want to hike back there with flashlights? And I go, sure. So we'd hike back and blah, blah, blah. And it's sort of like planted this seed that there is an incredible story. I mean, everyone knows there were a ton of wineries prior to Prohibition, but it's a way to tangibly see that. A lot of the Judgment of Paris wineries and all these were part of these and they were rebuilt, but there still are these ones that don't make wine. They're back. They're in fire danger, so people haven't rebuilt them. The roads aren't good, but they're beautiful. And so anytime I've ever asked for anyone to give us access to go in there and see if they're haunted, which I assume or I hope your next question is, do you believe in ghosts? And hell yeah, I do. Absolutely. World would be so boring if that wasn't true. And
Yeah.
so yeah, Napa is not a place that likes to show problems. They like everything to be clean and squeaky and nice, and every vintage is better than the last. And so I had a hard time getting a lot of these wineries to give me permission to really try to film something. So, this came about over a period of time, being in Montalena, being at Spotswood, being Spring Mountain Vineyards, and I became obsessed with it over a long period of time.
So cool. I definitely believe in ghosts. My summer camp had a ghost, and I had an encounter with her one year when I
Uh-huh.
was 18 working in the kitchen there. It was very spooky, and before that I did not believe, and then ever since then I'm a big believer. Were you guys afraid to film there at night? Like how did that was that scary for you?
I would say that that movie, for people who have seen Ghosts of Napa Valley, it was a lot more intense than it shows in the film, and the film's relatively intense.
Hmm.
Uh, yeah, yeah, we didn't. There was a lot of cockiness prior to filming, especially in Chevalier. This giant Gothic Victorian structure that is empty and has been empty for a very long time. Everybody was like, "This is not a big deal. We can handle this." In fact, people were like, "We should spend the night, get sleeping bags." And the minute anybody saw it for the first time, now I had been there, they were like, "No way." And Claire Copey, who's a very talented sommelier and involved in all aspects of things wine
And she's
wise,
like she's like the main character in
she
this.
is
Yeah.
the main character. And one of the things is, as a kid, she believes she was pushed down the steps by a ghost. And
Hmm.
so she became
Oh.
obsessed with ghosts after that. I have my own story going back. And her and I were like that Spider-Man meme, where you're pointing at each
Yeah,
other
yeah.
like, holy crap, you want to do this? I want to do this. Like, and when I had Claire, I realized this was possible.
Is it a real documentary?
Okay, so first of all, do you know if it had any elements of fakeness, what I would have done with this film? It would be a lot better. Every sound you hear, it goes exactly in order. There's nothing changed. We were at this place. And it's unfortunate that the one property burned down during the glass fire. We were there. It was a horrifying
Oh, yeah.
experience. But losing that history made us realize that the ghost story aspect of this, continuing to tell the stories, lets these quote unquote ghosts live. They get to keep going. Because now that
Mhm.
La Perla is burned down and you don't know who built it, you don't know who those people are. You don't know anything about that family. And they were one of the first wineries in Napa. That history is gone now. And so when you sit down and you talk about ghost stories, it's kind of the same thing of when you open like a 71 Ridge and you go, well, Paul Draper made this and it ended up in the Judgment of Paris. That gets to live on. That's why it's synonymous with wine, this vintage and also telling these stories. We started this film, had zero idea where it was going. This particular movie
Yeah.
really is a bunch of very smart, charismatic, really fun to hang out with women that are just put in weird situations, frankly. They created the situations. They're just in a big empty room and you let your fears get a hold of you and you behave a certain way. I would also say that we actually cut some of this stuff back. I mean, there's a lot. It was intense in a way that was like, I we set out to make a really cool hangout movie, where you want to hang with these people. They're really fun. You like them. I mean, I think Shakira Jones is one of the funniest people. She's got the funniest line in the movie. And I just, it was very intense. That second Ouija board segment was being there was not comfortable, to say the least.
Well, it's a really fun watch, and Jason, I think one thing that was occurring to me, it also kind of reflects larger themes around wine, and you touched upon this a second ago. I mean, the Napa Valley has faced so many threats, whether it's prohibition or fires or the pandemic. And these wineries are called ghost wineries, not because they have ghosts in them, but because the wineries themselves are ghosts. And so
Mhm.
I feel like there's kind of a deeper meaning to this film. I mean, did you have kind of these bigger themes in mind as you were working on it?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, I think that term is obviously really, really fun because of the name, the ghost
Mhm.
aspect, the ghost
Yeah.
winery, but it also has a lot of sadness to it and a lot of hope in the future that we sort of stuck a sword in an industry that was taking off in a way that could rival at this point. Imagine where we would be if we had not had prohibition. I'm not sure if it's better or worse, but it would have been bigger and it would have been, a really fascinating thing to think about, the sliding doors, if that hadn't happened for Napa, especially, but also every other wine region, you know, Santa Barbara, Washington, Oregon, all of these places would have started way earlier, and they would have had a lot more settling in, on the lees, as you would say, like by now. And so I think it's a real big tragedy that happened, but it's also looking back and appreciating, kind of the roots of how this started is important. And if you have to do it through ghosts, great. I mean, for me, it's like any way to put history in a context that is interesting is something I will try to do forever with my films.
And capturing, like, the human struggle. I mean, we hear about how hard it is to grow wine and make wine, but there are also the families, the
Yeah.
individual stories.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Man, if I had put all the trauma that these people had gone through, hacking their way through mountains and planting vineyards and doing all of that, there's a lot more.
Absolutely. Can you just tell us the single scariest moment at when you were filming it? Just, like, the one memory that just sticks out, like, "Oh my god, I was terrified at that."
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's a part in the movie where they ask the ghost or whatever they're talking to if they would like them to pour him a glass of wine. Okay. Now, we made a mistake during the filming. The wine, all right, you guys are going to laugh at me right now, but the wine goes down in the glass. But when the wine goes down, everyone's looking at it, and me as a director, stupidly called for a round of close-ups because the everyone was sort of they were moving around, and I was trying to get them sitting down and mulling. And no, we didn't have an angle on the camera except for the infrared camera, which sees right through glasses. They all look empty, no matter how much is in there, and
Mm.
everybody
Huh.
watched the glass go straight down. And then the wine is this low, and we poured it. Shakira poured it full, and that was a moment where we all, there's a lot of tears and a lot of like, do we want to come back to the table? And so that happened on camera but off camera, and we argued for about a week and a half as to how to explain this in the film, and it was really hard to do. So that was, I would say, the highest high of the like, holy shit, what did we just witness? But I didn't want to be like some ghost hunter show that like shows a glass falling off a table 72 times and acts like it was a thing when we didn't capture it. We screwed up.
I made a note of that moment. So I'm Jewish and we celebrate Passover. I don't
Oh
know if
yeah,
you've
of
been to
course you
Passover
pour a
Seder
glass. Yeah,
before,
yeah, of
but you
course.
pour a glass for Elijah,
That's right.
and every family does things differently. Like some families will like somehow find a way to make the glass go down so that the kids think that the prophet has come and had a glass. But
Oh,
that moment
interesting.
when they were like, let's pour a glass for Teresa, I was like, it's like Elijah. It's like the same thing where like the kid goes to the door to like let them in and then they come back to the table and the wine has gone down. That's really funny that like it
That's an
actually went down.
amazing analogy. I never thought about that as a comp, but there is also this element of, Claire saying only positive spirits are allowed in this session and all that stuff at the beginning of these. That's BS. You can't do that. You can't like say who's allowed to come through. So
Hmm.
I don't know. This whole thing is, look, if you believe you're going to have more fun on any of this stuff, truly,
Yeah.
and that's not just my film, it's any of this, you have to want to be scared. And I think that is also the case when you go to a wine tasting. You have to want to like the wine. If you're in a bad mood or, you just got in a fight with your boyfriend or whatever, you're probably not going to like the wine. So I think that if you're a believer and you're willing to receive, this stuff is a lot more fun. You know, that's my weird thought on that. But I do like the Elijah
Yeah.
thing. I'm going to think about that. That's really good.
How can our listeners find this movie to watch?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, sure. Yeah. I mean, right now it's on SommTV, which is, like Netflix or anything else, has apps on every device, sommtv.com. But We will make it as wide as we can. I mean, we wanted to make sure this thing got out before Halloween. And so we went on that platform, and SommTV.com or the app on any device. And, a year of SommTV is like less than a bottle of wine. So it's pretty chill as far as things go. So,
I'm a
Sweet.
subscriber.
Catherine, I love you.
Subscribe, folks.
The
All
best.
right. Well, Jason Wise, thank you so much for joining us. And thanks for some really good viewing this past weekend and making our Halloween just so much more enjoyable. We really appreciate all the work you do.
It's always an honor to be on. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. For our question of the week last week, we asked our listeners to spill the tea on the wines with surprisingly high sugar contents. No, not dessert wines, but dinner wines that look like they should be dry.
Yes, and our friend Zach Chabal pointed out that Prosecco typically does have some sweetness to it. He wrote, "No wonder we love it so much." Yes, Zach, we know, but we don't want to think about it because good Prosecco is so yummy.
And a couple of commenters pointed us toward the website of the Liquor Control Board of Ontario, which helpfully lists the sugar content of wines.
Yes, I was very intrigued by this website and very interested to see that you should be able to actually use the search function to search for wines with the highest sugar content, but unfortunately that was not working for me. I still found this fascinating though. More wine retail websites should reveal this information.
Commenter D Hayes 423 pointed out that Mayomi Pinot Noir, as discussed last week, has 21 grams per liter of sugar. Just wow. Even though we talked about this last week, it's still shocking to see.
And friend of the pod, John Bonnet, pointed out that Caymus Cabernet Sauvignon has 10 grams per liter of sugar. Caymus collectors, I'm sorry, but that wine is not going to fit into your ketogenic diet.
And I have a feeling a lot of Caymus collectors are actually on keto diets, but that's just a hunch.
Catherine!
What?
So, anyway, what is our question of the week for this coming week?
Okay, so we learned about chaos packaging at the top of this show, and we also talked about a really good looking new wine fridge. So, my question is, what in the wine world could be designed better?
Or like something like how could design improve wine?
Yeah, I like that. Well, it's time for our dessert course. And Ruby, you were mentioning you had an interesting tippling experience this past weekend. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Yes, I have a recommendation for a very cool, I think it's new-ish bar in the East Village called Mano Mano.
Hmm. What do they serve?
I'm so glad you asked, Catherine. Mano Mano serves, well, they serve lots of things, but their specialty is soju cocktails. So I had a blueberry soju cocktail. It was delicious.
I feel like we talked about soju on a previous episode. There
We're
was
talking about
definitely
soju versus shochu.
yeah, and there was definitely a trend for a while, at least in California, where people or restaurants were making soju cocktails because they were able to work around liquor laws.
Well, so they were
because-
labeling soju as soju because import laws made it cheaper to do it that way.
right. But now I think people have discovered that soju is just yummy.
It's really good. Yeah. And the bar is like, I hate to use this word, but it's like such a cool vibe. Huge florals all over the place, records all over. It's definitely like a record bar. And I had wings. It was a date, so that probably wasn't the best idea, but I was brave and I did it anyway. And yeah, I would recommend it if you're in New York and looking for a fun new place.
Well, I want to try this, so thank you.
Yeah.
How was the date?
We'll talk about it off camera. No, it was fun.
Well, this has been the Four Top Podcast. I am our executive producer, Catherine Cole.
I'm our producer, Nick Toole.
And I'm media and design manager, Ruby Welkovich.
Keelan King is the composer and performer of our theme music. Please visit our website, thefourtop.org, to learn more about us, listen to back episodes, and sponsor us.
Yes, and if you have not already subscribed to The Four Top on iTunes or Spotify, please do so, and please leave us a rating, and please sponsor us.
Hey, y'all, this is important. The ratings part, I mean. Every rating feeds the algorithm and helps new listeners find The Four Top, and then obviously the advertiser sponsorship. That's also pretty important.
Yes. Well, from inside Eric Wareheim's wine fridge, this is Catherine signing out.
From the campus of my tech-focused grad school where I will decide the future of AI, this is Nick signing out.
And from my probably haunted apartment in Brooklyn, New York, this is Ruby signing out. Stay safe out there, and thanks for listening.